Successful Minds with Patricia Baronowski-Schneider, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet. Hear their stories and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. Successful Minds with Patricia Baronowski-Schneider is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Patricia Baronowski-Schneider.
Hello and welcome back to Successful Minds. I'm your host, Patty Baronowski-Schneider. Today I'm joined by Cassandra Smith, the founder of Change Your Narrative. Our topic today focuses on the power of choosing your mindset. So thank you for joining us, Cassandra.
Thank you for allowing me to be here. I enjoy it.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I am so happy to be living in sunny Florida. It's like one of the best decisions I've ever lived in my life. For the past 5 years, I've focused solely on helping people to write content, write their first book, create their marketing strategy. I enjoy that because I get to understand the power of story. And while that's a fun business, my passion is for bringing other people's stories to the surface where they're comfortable with acknowledging who they are and where they've been, but also empowered to be able to make positive shifts so that they're putting their life in the direction that they want it to go.
Right. Oh, it's actually very good. I'm jealous about the Florida.
Come on down. I'll let you share.
Now, what inspired you to create Change Your Narrative? And I guess tell us a little bit about what is Change Your Narrative.
Sure. So to begin, Change Your Narrative is a overall mindset program. The idea is we all have a story. We all have a narrative, right? And too often there are other influences in our stories, which makes us feel like we don't own ours anymore. And other people are in control of our life, in control of our book, in control of our narrative. And I believe that while it is so good to have healthy, positive influences come and help us know how to write our stories well, ultimately we're the ones who hold the pen. Like, we're the ones in the driver's seat making the decisions for our life. And so I like to walk people through a 20-step program that I built, which is the foundation of the Change Your Narrative course on how do you do that? Like, how do you identify the people who have positively and negatively affected your life? How do you actually walk through making those mental mindset changes to make sure that you are not just continuing to be in a place where you are being damaged or in harm, but to be able to protect yourself and protect and nurture good, healthy relationships. And to answer the other part of your question, I worked with high school and college age students for about 15 years and found that mental health crisis is so prevalent, not only among the young, but among all of us, as I think the past couple of years has brought to the surface. And so Change Your Narrative came from working with so many individuals at a local level, at a community level for years upon years, and realizing they deserve to be empowered to make important changes. They deserve to have, you could say, a mentor, a coach, a guide, a big sister, a big brother. They deserve someone to walk with them, again, to acknowledge their story, but then to teach them how they can change it. I can't do it for them, right? Like, I can encourage, I can speak truth over their life, but ultimately we have to make these changes from the inside.
Well, that's actually really important because, like you said, especially, you see suicide rates and, a lot of bad things happening with people who, everybody has their own background, but a lot of times people don't have an outlet, and having someone who can listen to them, support them, give them guidance, especially now everybody's working and nobody's there with the kids.
We're not always ready to step into a counselor's office. And sometimes we don't even know how to broach good conversations with a spouse, with a friend, with a peer, how to articulate the language of our own story, which is why I created a platform that's very personal so that we can be empowered with those tools to know how to start telling ourselves the story first, so that we can share in appropriate amounts with other people. And eventually, my heart, I tell people all the time, I am not a licensed clinical therapist. I can't fix it. I just want to give you a framework. And so ultimately, for those who do need some professional services, I support that. And I want to be able to point them towards those avenues. Like, here's a good website, here's a good this, that, and the other. So resources were very important to me.
Nice. Now, how has the power of mindset impacted your own life?
So the funny thing is when you write a book or an online course or a coaching platform, I think as the author, you might think like, I did this. Like, I now know how to handle everything, right?
Right.
No, it doesn't mean that I've conquered my past. It means that I have a framework that I can continue to return to so I can make changes. And so it's helped me in that I now know my boundaries where I go, you know what, I'm not going to allow that professional working relationship in my life anymore, or that's not a good client, or you know what, in this friendship, I have to make some changes, or I need to go in and do some soul work and some mindset work for myself. And so I can't say that there's like some one huge crazy change. It's more, I feel like I know how to navigate now and say, I want to keep holding the pen. I want to keep writing the story that I want to. And I return like in my head all the time, like, oh, yes, chapter 7, you know, you go back and you're like, that's how this works. And even in the moments that still hurt, were still difficult. I had a situation this past week where something just went sideways on a Zoom call, and I hung up and didn't understand why someone had responded the way they did. And like, I sat there for a while and was like, okay, wait, what do we do? Like, what did I say we're supposed to do right now? So it's just a continual keeping me on course and keeping me on track.
Yeah, I always say life is a work in progress. You have to just keep going, keep going. Things change. And, you know, but like you say, just knowing that you have the power over yourself is like a major key.
Correct.
Nice. Now, what tips can you provide to help other people shift their mindset?
Sure. So the one that I really like to talk about is defining your authors. I know there's tons of different types of people, and it's a little overgeneralized, but I like to think of it in 3 categories. You have untrustworthy authors, dark authors, and trustworthy authors. I think a lot of times we think that's like good or bad. You know, like we've got the trustworthy people and the people that are dark, but there's this one in between, which is the untrustworthy. And figuring out it's okay to label someone as untrustworthy, even if they've been in your life for decades, at least gives you that mental freedom to say, sure, like I can be cordial. I can be in a, you know, low threshold trust relationship with someone, but I don't have to give you access to me. I don't have to give you access to my dreams or my fears. Just because we're in proximity does not mean I have to trust you. And then if they've got a dark author, someone who really is a villain, they've caused damage, harm. Listen, no proximity, like you're out. You don't get any access to me. And then the trustworthy, knowing the people who really are there for you. And again, they're not the ones who are writing the story. God bless you. They are championing for your story, and they're championing for you to keep holding that pen and writing a good story.
Nice.
And so I like to walk people through an exercise where we go, who is who? And it's okay to say who is who. And sometimes even just labeling is so empowering. And so I'd encourage anyone who's listening, consider, you know, getting on a blank piece of paper and just writing, who are all the influences in my life? Who are the voices that I'm listening to? And where do I need to move, you know, that access level so that there's healthy boundaries so you can protect yourself.
And it's good having an outside person, because sometimes, you know, internally you don't see it. Like I say, for example, I know some people, their families are the most toxic people, but that they're their family. And, you know, sometimes you need an outsider saying, well, who are the people that are not letting you proceed further? You know, so, you know, having that outside guidance and letting them know that it's okay.
Well, it can feel like betrayal. Like if you name someone, you know, untrustworthy, then like, why don't you like Uncle so-and-so? Why are you mad at your brother? Why, you know what I mean? Like, no, that's okay. I'm not saying I'm going to put all over social media, so-and-so is a dark author. No, but that internal knowing of who is who, and that you don't really have to interact with them past civility and respect and cordialness, but they're not your BFF, and it's okay to say it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I always tell everybody, you could love them and that's all great. You can, go to Thanksgiving dinner and that's all great and everybody gets along. But at the end of the day, when you want to talk about, what you're doing or new thing, you pick and choose who are there for you, who are your supporters, your cheerleaders.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think it's really important to use the term like issues and tissues. Like,
right.
who are you sharing your issues and tissues with? And like, you don't hand it away to just anyone. You are the prime steward of your own story.
Right.
And then when you can find other people who know how to care for your story well, man, they're the people that you can share those issues with.
Yeah. Now, what have been some of the biggest challenges you faced in helping people change their narratives?
I think it's really difficult to believe that you have the power that you do.
Yeah.
And as I like to use the term like care worker, as someone who cares and is investing in the life of someone else, it can be difficult when you can see it, you can see someone's value, you can see their worth, you can see the opportunities in front of them.
Right.
But there's something in their head and heart that says it's not safe. I can't do that.
Right.
And it's that difficulty of wanting to rescue someone, knowing they need more time. Sometimes it takes me years to make the right decision because I need to recognize I can. And I need to give someone else that same grace of time and still support them and stand with them through a longer process. Look, I might have written a bunch of books and it can be like, oh, read until page, 89 and you're good. That's not the way life works. Like, that's just not practical.
Right.
And just because I can see each mile marker or what I think each mile marker might be in someone's life does not mean that that's the route they're going to take. And I need to give them that freedom. So sometimes, yes, it can be frustrating, is not the right word, heartbreaking, actually, when you see someone struggling through the pain to heal. But I still consider it an honor to be able to stand with someone as they're taking those hard steps. Because sometimes just one single 6-inch step, you're still going in the right direction.
Yeah, but even if someone has like many hurdles and like you say, what works for one might not work for somebody. And, so if you're with somebody and they're going through that, even though it's a process and it's painful and you have to watch it, once they get through that, I mean, it's like they've taken off 20,000 layers of clothes and now they're free. So it's, when they say good things happen to those who wait sort of thing, it is true because I know myself and other people have gone through so much stuff and we all reacted differently to how things happen. And, once you finally get over that, if you're in like a habitual type of situation and you finally are out of that, it's like, wow. And then you're happy about how strong you are that you've overcome all of that. So
not only that, but it's like, imagine it like you're going through this dense wooded forest, right? And if you pay attention to your story, it's almost like you can leave ribbons around trees, going like, here's the path out. And so, yes, you feel free. I feel free, but I left some ribbons behind me, right? And so I can say like, this is the way. You just have to get to the next maple tree. Like you just have to keep going one more time. So it's powerful. I help people to write books professionally, right? And I'm amazed at how many people say, like, I need to tell my story. I need to write. I want to help others because they made it through their forest and they need to link the path together for others. That makes it feel redeemed or like it was worth it.
Right.
And I'm all about that. Like, share your path. Yeah. It may not be the same exact path. Like, I think we make that mindset or that mistake when it's like, oh, you just have to do that. That worked for you. We're still going to get to the other side, but like our ribbons might be a little bit different.
Right. Well, it's all true. Now, what are the biggest successes you've seen from helping people change their narrative?
Well, I like to be very cautious in sharing too many details. I work with a lot of individuals and I like to champion for those who are taking back the pen from abusive situations, addiction, depression, anxiety, suicide, and self-harm. So they're very private journeys that I like to steward well. But I can say it's so encouraging to see people who 10, 12, 15 years later You remember where they were. You remember what it was like to be with them in their lowest moments when it really, you're kind of wondering yourself, is there a way out?
Right.
And then to see them, so many years later, they've got kids, they've got businesses, they've got families,
Right.
they're doing important things in their communities. And I know that they had to earn that new life.
Right. Right.
To work hard to heal.
Right.
They put in the work.
Right.
And I'm so proud when I think of people who things happened unjustly to them, and they looked at that injustice and said, you don't own me. Like, yes, it was unjust, and I'm going to work through it. And so there's just something so powerful of a life reclaimed. And when someone finds their voice in it, there's nothing better.
Nice. Now, how do you suggest people stay motivated to keep their mindset positive? It's easy to say be positive.
It's so easy. Find a friend that you don't have to be positive with.
Okay.
Like, positivity is good, but I think we have to voice the negative and be able to wrestle through it in somewhere where it's not just going to be shot down like, oh, just go be positive.
Right.
If you can voice the negative inside of a safe space, inside of a committed relationship, whether that is a professional service where you've got a contract that they're committed to help you, or it's a spouse, or it's a, vetted best friend, having that place where you can talk about when it's not good helps to return you to where it is good faster.
Mm-hmm. That is true. I mean, keep it bottled up inside, it just festers and then it'll explode.
Or it leaks out in ugly places that aren't really even related.
Right.
And it turns you into someone that you don't want to be.
Right. Now, what tools and resources do you recommend to help people change their narrative?
So when I began writing, and even before I wrote my first book, I actually did months of Google research on websites and YouTube videos and TED Talks and organizations that could help people, because I knew that I was not the end all. I just wanted to get people towards their solution. So what I did on my website, which is changeyournarrative.org, is I listed out 8 different topics: abuse, addiction, anxiety, bullying, depression, image matters, which is the word that I like to use for eating disorders or any times that we're struggling with self-esteem, self-harm, and suicidal awareness. And on that page, or on my website, there's a page dedicated to each issue that has loads of resources that can be downloaded per what you're looking for, or whether you struggle or whether you care for someone who does. And so I really want to create that library so that when someone did ask me this question, I was able to say, look, depending on what you are facing and who you are, whether you're struggling or someone else is, you're able to get that direct information that you need to help you. Because there's so many great organizations out there. There's so many people who are willing to talk about their stories and how they did take back the pen. And I want to point people towards them.
It's nice. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of resources, but honestly, if you're a person struggling, you don't really know about a lot of that, and that's why a lot of people just suffer alone,
Right. But I was blown away when I did this months of research to go, like, there's so many people whose hearts are just like, man, we want to see you win. Mm-hmm. And I just want to point those who are struggling towards those people and go, like, go connect with them, because there are support groups, there are chat groups, there are free chat lines. I know hotlines can go back and forth. Sometimes they're great, sometimes they're not, but there are organizations who want to support you and have tons of low or no cost resources to help get you there.
That's good to know. And people have to know that, it's not a one and done deal. Like even with therapists, there's thousands of them, but not everyone works for everybody.
Correct.
I know, like in the past, I've dealt with other things and going to people, you might see 2 or 3 before you find the one that you actually connect with. So I know some people go to one and they're like, oh, it's just not worth it. Try again, so yeah.
You almost have to this sounds terrible. So misquote me here, but you have to like date a therapist. Like there's almost this like dance of, is this right? Is this not right? A counselor once told me that, and I never considered this, but like, if you want to go to a counseling appointment, you're going to spend a lot of money for that session. It's okay to call the office and just say, can I talk to them for 3 minutes ahead of time and get that like click check? Like, does this work or not? Because if their voice is gruff or if it reminds me of the person who abused me, like you just need out fast. And a respectable therapist should give you less than 5 minutes. Don't get a free therapy session. Just have that connect check. And I thought that was great advice. Like, I didn't know I could do that. I thought they were in control. No, this is a working relationship and it's okay to do that dance.
Yeah, no, you're right, 100%. So now I know we talked about the positive, but now what advice can you give, I guess, can you provide to help people stay, focused on the positive and not necessarily dwell on the negative, I guess?
Sure. Find the thing that matters to you and invest in it. That might be your kids. That might be your Saturdays at the coffee shop. That might be a hike in the mountains. But I think we have to refuel one way or the other. And it is difficult to stay positive, right? For me, one of the concepts I talk about a lot is schedule silence. It's okay to calendar blocks of time where you just need to be quiet because you just need to think, or you just need to process your story, or you just need to go to the movies. Like you just need that Coke, cereal, and popcorn and movie because you just need to be for a bit. Okay, that's fine. That's all right. Go do something that makes you laugh. In my material, there's a segment called perseverance and endurance, and right off the bat, I'm like, listen, this is not about like, let's grit it through, like just keep going. That's not perseverance. Perseverance is giving yourself what you need so you can take another step. Sometimes that means you just need to play, or you need to rest, or you need to dream. And so staying positive doesn't mean just don't think about the negative or just transform the negative. It means do the things that are positive in your life and invest in those.
Nice. Good advice. Now, what advice do you have for people who may be struggling to believe in themselves?
Do an internal audit. When was the last time that someone said something kind to you? When was the last time that someone said, like, I see something positive in you? And then write that down, but don't discount it. Because here's what happens is when we've had dark authors or untrustworthy authors mess with our minds, then even when someone says something positive, we tend to automatically discount it and go, well, that can't be true because so-and-so already told me on this. Dark authors, untrustworthy authors try to take claim of your identity. And then so when someone else comes with a positive say on your identity, it's easy to discount because sometimes it's just hard to fight to believe, right? So give yourself time, schedule silence, and do that internal audit where you can say, actually, it was in 4th grade, but so-and-so told me, like, hey, I could see you doing photography one day. That's really cool. It doesn't matter what it is, but go back and find those people who acted more like trustworthy authors and were able to speak truth, encouragement, positivity, and life over you.
I know it is hard. Like, I know some people who've, maybe coming from different families or whatnot, they were constantly put down. And it's decades of hearing that it almost, they start believing it. And they don't understand that you can't always, like you say, the dark authors, you can't always like buy into that. It really takes somebody pulling them out saying, okay, take a good look at yourself, but I think that's a big issue that a lot of people face is just, their entire, nowadays with TV and whatnot, you're seeing different things, and that doesn't mean that that's the way it's supposed to be.
Right. And I think also we tend to attach our identity to other symbols, to other celebrities, to other people who we think represent us. And sometimes it's easy to feel attacked or, as if you're being put down. Like, it's just hard because there's so much messaging. And if it aligns with the messaging that you've received, it's easier to just heap on and think, I'm not. And that is hard. It takes time. Like, I think sometimes we imagine if someone gets kicked down and, their identity is put down, it's like, oh, you just need someone to help pick you up, right? Like, just this one time, get on your feet. No. You have to imagine it's like they're in a mine shaft and they've been kicked down 6 inches at a time, multiple times a day for years. How far down there are they? And do you know how skilled you have to be to rescue someone that's way down the mine shaft? And how you can't actually bring them to the surface all at once? You have to like reacclimate. Like, it's a process to make sure that they're safe getting back to planet Earth, right? It's hard. And so I think one of my goals is to help care workers, help those who love someone who's struggling, be intentional in the long haul to help bring someone back to that place where they will sit in the grass on the surface and go, oh, okay. Because it takes time.
Yeah, and like you say, it's not a one and done deal, like, especially like addicts and things like that. Just because you've overcome that doesn't mean that you still won't encounter hiccups down the road. You have to really have that power and that support network to know that anytime you have that urge, I'm not alone. I have people who love me and I can do this,
And did we get to the root? Because with a lot of pain and behaviors and actions that we take in order to soothe our pain, you can fix an action, you can fix the behavior, just go pick a new one. But if you don't root that part of your story that got damaged, I think that it'll surface somewhere. And so I'm big into believing in acknowledging the past without letting the past own you. But again, that's a very careful process.
That's all good stuff, though. Now, what impact do you hope to make with Change Your Narrative?
I'm hoping that the individuals who don't know where help is and aren't quite ready to maybe step into a therapist's office understand that someone's ready to meet with them in a very comfortable setting, like our cell phones. I offer, self-paced online mentorship courses so that I can sit with someone and go, no, it's okay. Like, here's one more tool. Here's one more framework to work with. I want to empower individuals to take back their own stories. But also, you have those dream projects, right? And I'm hoping, I want to partner with organizations who have the same idea of helping people to reclaim their life, whether that's a human trafficking prevention or rehabilitation organization, whether it is an addiction recovery organization. We need a lot of help. And I would love to partner with other organizations to help champion that forward, going, I've got a tool. How can I help you? Can I put you on my list? Like, I think we're all better when we rally for each other's stories together. So I'm hoping to make a personal impact, but also be a part of a network and be able to contribute to it.
Even with companies, though, I mean, there's some of the big, companies, they have, they'll put together, like, I don't want to say training, but because I guess back in the day when somebody just had enough and they went postal, so to speak, they would have these, whether it be annual or semi-annual, just like a group setting, let everybody know, even something like that, just letting people know, because a lot of people won't talk out in a group. But if you came in and said, okay, everything's going to be okay, here's what you do in a big stressful situation. But at the end of the day, anybody wants to talk to me one-on-one, here's my card.
Correct.
So tell me again about how companies could take advantage of this.
Sure. I got some feedback pretty early on that there were groups that would want to go through this instead of just individuals. And I like to empower facilitators or leaders, managers to be able to go through that and know what to do. So I created a 6-week program so that smaller groups, I would say less than 20, can go through just 1 week at a time for 6 weeks and understand this framework so that they know how to have good conversations with each other, but also with themselves, so there's not that mental block on the inside. So I love connecting to corporations as well, just to help them feel like they've got good tools to keep their people just well empowered.
Oh, that is good because, like I said, I know a lot of the bigger companies, at the end of the day, when something bad does happen or somebody leaves because they were disgruntled or whatever the case may be, it's always look back on the company. What did you do to prevent this?
Right.
So teaching them how to communicate with your people, and if any, because so many people say, "Oh, my door's always open," but it's not, and there's just so much stuff that goes on behind closed doors. So it's good to know that, train these companies so that they keep out of trouble, but they keep their employees safe too.
Right. And then to follow up with, it's not just that class, but it's also, here's all those resources. If you are struggling with something, those companies can also point them in the right direction. And it kind of removes the burden of having to have like a mental health arm inside your company, but you're still partnering with mental health tools so your people can get the right help and be taken care of, because that's ultimately what we do want. We just don't always know how to start the conversation. So I want to help facilitate that.
No, but that is cool because, the people always laugh. You spend more time with the people in an office than you do at home sometimes. Literally, you're with them, 8 to 18 hours a day. You get home, you eat, you're going to bed. I mean, literally, you're with your spouse, your family, 2-3 hours? I mean, so you want to know that they actually care enough about you that they're willing to help you.
Yeah, for sure.
Good stuff. Good. So anything else you want to add or tell us about?
I guess I would just say, dare to believe in your story. Like, dare to believe that, there was some not great stuff that happens in each of our lives, but that is not the thing that owns you. Your identity is not your worst day. Your identity is not your worst mistake. Your identity is something that you can take control of. And control can be somewhat of a negative word, and I don't mean for it to, but it's something that you can take back and you can steward once more. And I think our identity is always unfolding. It's not like, oh, I'm just this one thing. We have a lot of secondary titles that come and go in life, but deep down in who we are, that's something that remains with us and it's worth fighting for. Even though it's hard, it is worth it to reclaim the parts of your life that are painful, so that pain isn't in the driver's seat, you are.
Well said. Now, how can people get a hold of you?
I would love to connect. My website, changeyournarrative.org, is the best way. I do have a free lesson on there. If someone just wants to try the video mentorship and understand what is a narrative, we're here for you. We want you to be able to try that, whether you feel like you're struggling or you love someone who does. Part of what we do is train someone. So how you mentioned with the corporate offices, we train facilitators on how to have these conversations. So I would love to connect and be able to get some good resources into each other's hands.
Nice. Thanks again for being on the show. Again, that was Cassandra Smith, the founder of Change Your Narrative. Thanks for listening to Successful Minds with Patty B. Never miss an episode by subscribing to the channel. Thanks, and thanks again.
Thank you for listening to Successful Minds with your host, Patricia Baronowski-Schneider. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we'll see you on the next episode.